When I try to operate the window, I can hear the motor operate, but there's a bit of a crunching noise, and of course the window doesn't move. And those symptoms suggest that the window regulator is broken inside the door. And so in this video I'm going to show you how to remove the door card here so that you can access the existing window regulator and remove it, and then of course replace it with a new one. So let's get to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the negative terminal from the battery. Okay, so there's a few things to take off of the front of the door so that we can get to screws that are behind and holding this door card on. And the first of them is this, which is just the little airbag sign. So this just needs to be pried off. But I'm going to come back to these screws later once I've got all the little pieces of trim off. And you just need to pop that disc out because there's another screw behind there. There you go. Okay, so next up is there's a couple of screws behind this door handle. And what you'll find is you can actually feel the edge of it underneath the bottom edge there, and that gives you purchase with your fingers. And so as you can see, I just popped that off at the bottom. And now I can go ahead and gently work my way up. And there's a couple of screws hiding behind the handle. Okay, so next up we've got this little triangular cover which has the little tweeter speaker in it to remove. And the easiest way to remove this is just to grab that edge nearest the window, because again you can just get your fingers in there and then just gently pull outwards on it. And this speaker has a little blue electrical connection there which you can see, and all you have to do is pull up on that. Okay, so now it's time to take all of those screws out. So these are T20. There's one at the top there and one at the bottom here. And if the screws don't come straight out once they're loosened, then a little magnet on a stick usually does the trick. Moving on, there's another T20 behind the door opener just here, so we can whiz that out. And of course the screw that was behind this little airbag badge here. Okay, so we're ready to lift the door card off now. And what you're best doing is grabbing the bottom of the door card and pulling that away first. So now you can see this is completely loose at the bottom. And now what I find works best is if you grab along the top, starting from the left hand side and then working your way across, just pull directly away from the door. And it's worth mentioning that sometimes it takes quite a bit of force in order to pull this top edge off of those clips. And there's a cable connection here which is going from the door handle. And what you'll find is this cable is really easy to disconnect on the side where it goes to the actual door latch. And all you have to do is pull down slightly on it here and then move it out of that clip that it's in. And then this top toggle part, you just turn it off to the side and then it comes off. So these are the two electrical connections which do the electric window and also the electric mirror on this side. And the first one should just pull out quite easily, just like that. But this one's quite an unusual clip because what you have to do is push down on that tab, and then this lever you just move past the tab once you've pushed it down. And now what you'll find as you continue to move that lever, it'll actually eject the connection. We need to remove this, so it's best to remove it carefully if you can without ripping it all up. Now this one's actually been off before, so it's probably stuck on a bit differently to what yours will be if you've never touched it. But basically mine's just got some sealant around the edges, so I'm just going to go around and carefully, you know, undo it with my fingers. So this here is actually your airbag, and it's just held on by these three 10mm bolts. Now obviously this is going to have to come off of the inside of the door for us to get this soundproofing foam off and to give us the access we need behind. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these three 10mm nuts undone. It's worth mentioning that even with your battery disconnected, if you unplug this airbag, you may result in an airbag light. So can you see this little edge of the clip here, where you just pull out on that, and then the same at the other side. My airbag light didn't come on, so I was able just to put this all back together again and put the battery back on once I'd finished without any issues. Okay, so with that airbag out of the way, I'm just going to move this foam. So all of this mechanism that you can see here that the window motor is mounted to, and also the black frame, is all known as the window regulator. So to remove this, there's 5 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then a 5th one that's just hidden underneath here. So there's a little oval cover under there on the bottom of the door, and you pop that loose to get to the screws. And you'll notice there's two of them. Well, it's actually this left one, which is the one that's nearest the door hinges. And so there's just a 10mm nut under there. So I'm just going to get my socket onto that. So with the awkward one underneath done, we can turn our attention to the ones on the inside of the door. Starting with this one on the top right, just here. Moving along to the one just above the motor. And then finally this one at the bottom. Okay, so that's all the bolts that hold the BMW window regulator in place. So I'm just going to pop through any studs that are showing through the steel, which is pretty much anywhere where we just took off the nuts. So you probably noticed my window failed in the up position, but now it means I have to get this window down a little bit because there's a torque screw at one side which holds the glass to the window regulator, and at the other side there's a clip, and I need to get that down far enough that I can get access to them, which means I'm going to put the airbag back on temporarily and the power back on and just see if I can get the window to come down a little bit. And I'm just going to pop that back on and connect it up. Just a little bit at a time. And the key thing is I'm waiting for a bolt that's on the runner to come down and be visible through this hole. Okay, so there it is there. And you can see it through this little hole. So you can see you have access to that now. And that's how you unfasten the glass of the window from the window regulator. And now I'm going to reach in and undo that screw. Here's the clip at the other side, so it's just there, and you just need to pry that out. Now all you have to do is wiggle the white plastic slider until you can make it slide free of the black frame. Okay, and now it's actually easiest to get this window regulator out if the glass is back up. And what you can actually do is lift the glass up, and at a certain point it'll tilt towards you and it'll almost balance in that position really, and you can just leave it angled there. So we just have a final thing to disconnect, and then we can go ahead and remove the window regulator, and that's the electrical connection to the window motor. And this is a squeeze type, so you just squeeze at the back and then you should be able to slide that off of the wiper motor. And now you can go ahead and remove the window regulator finally. And you can kind of tackle it in two pieces really. So the first piece is the bit that's got the motor on it. And actually you can probably see the problem I've got with my window here, which is a broken cable on it. And now we can get the second half. It's hard to show this with it being behind the door piece, but there's a little clip behind here which is holding the cables to the window regulator. So you literally just reach under and there's just a little clip, and it was just keeping these cables tidy. And so there you are, that's the BMW window regulator removed. So this motor's held on by 3 Torx screws, and these are T30. So just a little bit of gentle prying should get the motor off. The motor only really goes in one position because of the offsets on these screws. So you just need to line that up, and it has little splines on the shaft there. There we go. And so now we just hold the position of that and we can flip it over, and that makes it a bit easier to go ahead and get these screws put back in. Well, I'm just going to use a little bit of this silicone grease along those. Refitting the BMW window regulator is not the exact opposite of removal. It's a little bit tricky to get the frame in and then also getting the glass back onto the guides again. So I'm going to show the reassembly process rather than stopping the video at this point, and I think it will be valuable to you. Okay, so just feeding this window regulator in now. Just remember that this screw's in place at the moment and it's got the window bracket on it. And so what I'm going to have to do later is remove that, take this bracket apart, put it onto the glass and reassemble it again. So it's worth mentioning that all of this window regulator mechanism has to be this side of the glass. So it has to be up against this inner door skin and the glass is on the other side. Don't accidentally tuck the regulator around the back side of the glass because you won't be able to fit it in place. So I've got this bottom stud lined up here, so I'm just going to put the nut back on, and at this stage I'm just doing it finger tight. And now if we pan up a little bit, there's another one just here, and then there's a final one at the top here. So the right hand side is just laid across the bottom at the moment, and we know we need to get it round and up. So that's on at the top. Now the bottom one that's just down here, just inside, you remember the one that I said we access from underneath? That one's actually on a slot, so you can move this regulator frame in and out. So later on it's going to be important to find the correct position for that, but for now I'm just going to put the nut on the bottom. Now we're ready to put the glass back onto the window regulator. And so we need to put the power back on briefly so that when we reach through we can get to the screw. It's just a little bit low at the moment down in there. If you don't have a reset tool for the airbag, then you'll want to pop the plug back on the airbag and then just attach it in place temporarily. And now I'm going to reach in and undo that screw. And this is probably now one of the trickiest parts of the job, because this is the front plate and that's the back one, and so I have to line the whole of the glass up with this and then sandwich this together, and it has a little boss there, can you see? And that lines up with the hole as well, and then all of this is at the back of the metal that you could see in there, and the screw goes through and it secures against this back plate, you see. In fact, can you see how that clipped through there? That effectively kind of holds it all in place, which allows you to get the screw in. So in order to disassemble this, you just squeeze that slightly. And then I'm going to feed this piece in and hopefully onto the hole in the glass on the front side of the glass. Anyway, it'll take some messing around, but eventually you'll get the runner on the other side in place, and then you'll be able to line up this bracket here so that then you can get this bolt back in. So I got that clamp on the right hand side and it's just kind of hanging there because that little clip that holds it in place is doing its job. But before I can line it up, then I need to get this left hand side on, and you can see this piece here. Well, it just slides into the runner. So that black runner there, the white piece slides inside it, so you have to kind of line that up. And now we can go ahead and tighten this one up. And then don't forget, at this side you need to get this clip back in. And I'm just going to tighten up the rest of the way the nuts that hold the window regulator in place. And what I just did by moving the window up and down a few times is I just made sure the glass ran nicely down the middle of this rubber. And what you can do is, if your glass isn't sitting in the middle of the rubber, say it's come this side and it's actually running down this face, then you can move the window to the fully down position and you can just access that little corner there. And if you get in carefully with a screwdriver, you can just pull back that leading edge and you can feed the glass into the middle, and then as you run the glass up, then you can make it go into the seal like it should. Now if you remember me saying the bottom of the window regulator on the right hand side, it's slotted so it can move. Well, looking down inside, because it's a little bit dirty inside, I can see where that bracket used to sit. And it's about there. So literally I'm just going to get underneath with my socket and just tighten that nut up. So we're getting this door card ready to go back on, and I bought a small pack of the clips because I broke a couple. I'll put a link to the part number in the description of the video in case you find you break a couple. So the ones that I lost were down here, so I'll just pop one of these on ready, and then just up here as well. We've just got our foam to put in place. This stuff is really sticky, that's on the back of it still, and most of it came off onto the foam. So I'm just going to be able to press this back into place again. And now we can go ahead and screw the airbag back into place. And don't forget the electrical connection to it. And now we're ready to get our door card on. So you can probably just see this little clip here. Well, that one, it literally pushes straight onto it. And before I go any further, I'm going to make sure that these controllers for the electric windows are where I need to get them. And now I'm just going to work my way around anywhere where there's one of these little clips, starting from this top left position and then just working around the door card. And because these things are on slots on the door card, they don't always line up with the hole that's in the door perfectly. So what it's worth doing as you're working your way around, and it involves a bit of laying on the ground, is just looking up with a light and making sure that you're lining up with the holes properly. Two screws in the handle. I will just fit this cover here, and it is profiled slightly, this cover, but there's a little slot so it can only go back in one position, so you can't really get it wrong. There we go. So this one actually, there's little slots at this top edge, and so what you do is you slot it under at the top, and then everywhere else it just pushes in place. Next up, the electric window connections. Remembering that on the larger one this lever comes over. This other one's a more conventional one, where it just goes in one position really. So you have to get this back edge under first. Do it nice and even, top and bottom. Next up we have the little tweeter, and this end's kind of fixed to the bodywork, so all you have to do is push this in. So this is a bit of a strange design, this one. So this back edge has a bit of an edge on it, so you have to get it behind the back edge of the rubber there. And then this one just pushes directly into place. And then finally there's a little screw that goes behind the airbag fitting. And then this thing just pushes in place. And just make sure you get your battery negative terminal nice and tight. Hopefully this video helped you, and if it did, then please consider giving me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to make sure you get to see my next video. And finally, if you want to see more videos just like this one, then why not check out the recommended videos on the right. Okay, thanks for watching, catch you next time.